So I'm gonna um, record this call here and get us going. So hi everybody, welcome. Good afternoon, good morning. If I have anyone from Honolulu on the call, my name is Lisa Jordan. I'm the managing director of the IEA, and I'm the executive director of the Charlotte Executives Association. Happy to be here with all of you. These are free monthly webinars that the IEA puts on. And as a member of a local execs, they're free for you to attend and free for you to host. So if you have a great topic that it could easily transfer across state lines or even country lines, as we have execs members in both Canada and now in Great Britain, then we would love to talk to you about hosting a future webinar. Today, I am really excited to introduce Kyle Bunch, who is the CEO and founder of Summit Path Coaching and Consulting and a member of the Oregon Executives Association, thanks to Brad Hansen, right, Brad? So Kyle, thanks for being here today. A little bit about Kyle that I just learned. Kyle spent over a decade working in property and casualty insurance as a broker for Goosehead Insurance. And it landed him as a consistent recipient in the President's Club. And he's also one of Business Elite's 40 under 40 in 2023. So Kyle specializes in hybrid workplaces and has transformed teams into productivity powerhouses through his methods. His mantra, which I love, is elevate, innovate, and inspire. Each day presents an opportunity to surpass conventional boundaries. So take it away, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you all for taking an hour out of your day to come and learn with me today. Yeah, just a special shout out to Oregon Execs. We're turning 100 this year. So we're getting ready for that big celebration in this coming year. So pretty exciting. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of start off by sharing a little bit about who I am. I always like people to know uh, beyond what I do for work. This is my family. I am a girl dad, three girls, Miriam, Millie, and Gemma, and my wife, Rachel, there. So we have a lot of fun. We like to do a lot of travel. We're into Taylor Swift, so we went on the road for the Taylor Swift concerts when that was a thing. All my girls are into dance, and then the two oldest are old enough to be involved in sports. So we definitely stay busy with three girls going in every which direction. I just wanted to kind of share a little bit about how I landed here, coming from the insurance world. A few years ago, I started my doctoral journey at Grand Canyon University that I'm thankful to almost be done with. I am currently what's called ABD, so all but dissertation. So just making that final push, and hopefully we'll finishing up in the spring with that process. But that's really what kind of brought me to start Summit Path and get into this work with in the employees in the hybrid workspace. As we all know, a lot of this work started with the big C word that we don't like to mention anymore, and the strong shift to work from home. I think the latest survey that I saw about Zoom was that like 80-something% of people didn't know what Zoom was before COVID, and obviously that's a world that we all live in now. So that was kind of interesting. But really, my work and my research focuses on this shift back outside of that, right? We all remember trying to, if you're a parent, work and school from home at the same time, having recess while you're trying to take a call or take a meeting, and that was a fun stage of life. But as we get further and further away from COVID, there's a growing tension between the workforce that may still want to be fully remote and have gotten used to that flexibility of being able to kind of manage their own schedule and do things around their work schedule, working from home, and organizations who really do want people back in the office. A lot of times they have great reasons for wanting people back in the office. They don't always communicate that well, and that's part of the work that I do with organizations as they're looking to make that shift. But really, 2024 was the year, and into the beginning of this year, that we saw the largest shift. It didn't happen right away, where we're seeing this big movement to the hybrid model. So I've stayed pretty busy in this last year, just working with teams who are already in that and looking to improve their hybrid workspace or looking at making the move into that. Oops. Um, so really, just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of the big pros and a couple of the big cons that I see in working with teams in hybrid work. Obviously, the ability to connect virtually gives a lot of flexibility to me, even when there's a snowstorm, an ice storm, or when someone's traveling, but they still want to connect with their team. Um, that's a huge advantage of the technology that we have available to us. Employees do report that when they're able to work from home, they have a stronger work-life balance. Um, they're obviously able to eliminate their commute times, which for some people, an hour plus, that's a lot in their day back if you look at going to and from the office. And also the eliminations of distractions at the office. I talked to one of my clients here in Portland as they were going back. That was their biggest frustration is like, I'm such a social person. I have a harder time when I go into the office because the water cooler conversations distract me from what I need to get done. So being home had that benefits too. Two of the biggest downsides that I have seen in working with teams. One is the isolation of working from home. Even the best employees have self-serving behaviors when they're working from home. So, trying to throw in that trip to the doctor in the middle of their workday or walking the dog while they're taking a call, things like that, that again may be beneficial to the employee well-being, but it may not be beneficial when it comes to the highest levels of productivity for the teams. And then what I've noticed when the design is not idealized is that when they go into the office, they're so task oriented because they're there as a team. It's so task oriented on what do we need to get done as a team since we're together that a lot of teams and a lot of organizations are missing out on the community building and the culture building, which I'll talk a lot about more in a minute about the importance of that and what that does for engagement and productivity on your teams. The big things that I work on when I am working on implementing with teams is collaboration. How are your teams working together? Communication. I feel like overall during COVID and coming out, leaders got lazy when it came to communication and inspiring communication amongst their teams. And when you're working in a hybrid environment, that becomes even more important. And then obviously I talked about the relationship building piece and what that does for a team's engagement and then overall productivity. This is what my research and now my work with organizations is based in. It's called the PERMA model. It's actually a psychological well-being model that came from Dr. Martin Seligman out of the University of Pennsylvania. And it focuses on these 5 things: positive emotions, engagement, positive relationships, and meaning, and how those relate to accomplishment. And those can be applied in a variety of different areas in someone's life. But Dr. Seligman's team did take that and apply it to the workplace. Dr. Peggy Kern, who's actually one of my advisors on my dissertation, which was really cool to be able to work with someone from his team, developed this, which is called the PERMA profiler. So it takes those elements of PERMA and applies them to the workplace. So I actually use this PERMA profiler as a tool when I first go into an organization where I'm assessing how are teams feeling as it relates to these different things. At work, how often do you feel joyful? To what extent do you feel appreciated by your coworkers? How often do you feel sad? How satisfied are you with your professional relationships? So to kind of get a gauge and see which of these elements may a team be thriving in and what areas might we want to focus on as we're trying to develop a plan for that organization. Because one thing I've realized very quickly is that this is not a cookie cutter approach to how do you do hybrid best. Every organization is going to have a different way that is best for them. And this tool really helps us kind of navigate where we want to focus as we're working on helping that team to idealize what hybrid looks like for them. You've heard me say a lot of information, so I'm going to pause and I'm going to ask some questions of you guys. When you think of a hybrid workspace, what does that look like to you? And I'm gonna ask about, physical space. What does that look like when you're thinking about hybrid work when it comes to physical space, from the culture, from the teams, interactions, things like that? Just throw out some ideas. What does that look like to you?
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself and chime in or throw something in the chat to answer Kyle's question. Anybody?
Anybody? This is the audience participation. It's okay if no one wants to, but
Jocelyn
I
says
have some ideas of my own.
a matching workspace is helpful, so it's easy to work at home or in the office. Oh, that makes sense. Yep.
Awesome.
Same
Matching workspace.
computer,
Okay,
same, yeah. Mhm.
great.
Yeah, I definitely mimic that one. My work office space is pretty much identical to my home space that I work in. So just so it's easier for that transition. Um, Setup is
That's great.
key. Hmm.
Any other ideas? All right, we'll keep moving on. These are a lot of things that I look at with teams, and we're looking at physical workspace and what a modern space looks like. Um, Open concept is definitely a big thing in the new workspace, having more of these cube workstation type environments for people to sit at, but also um, Nook spaces. So if someone wants to go and work a little bit more casually or have a conversation with a teammate, they can sit in the cozy Nook spaces. Um, but something that allows a variety of work. A lot of times, people on teams thrive with this kind of open space, but there are still people who work better in a more quiet space. So having closed off private areas where they can go and sit, it may not be their permanent workstation, but they have the ability to go in there and close the door and be by themselves is important. So that's a big space. But you guys highlighted the third point well, seamless connection, so that when you're at work or at home, that it allows you to work fluidly, but also fluid communication between people who may be in the office, but those who may not be at the same time, and just having the technology and the equipment to be able to make that seem seamless. So it's not like, oh, I have to go to the office and I don't like my space there, or even like most often I see I don't have the setup at home that I have at the office, and I would like to be able to. So when it comes to physical space, um, that's something. Those are the things I focus on when looking at that. So when I look at the four big pieces of helping people to buy into hybrid work, I guess I would just back up one step and say I often see a lot of resistance when I'm working with teams um, on coming back into work, especially if they've been for the last 5 years fully remote. They may not see a strong reason to. They just feel like it's being forced, like you have to be back. And then sometimes that's valid. I've worked with a lot of people who are like, I'm the only one in my team who lives in Portland, but I'm forced to go into the Portland office, even though the rest of my team is in Dallas or in Santa Clara. And so I'm going into the office, paying for parking, and getting on Teams calls just like I would be at home because no one else on my team is in the actual office I'm being forced to go into. That's a problem too. So these are the things I work with when I am working on the hybrid work as a mindset. First, culture. How is that fostered so that a strong company culture is being developed? And even as a recruiting tool for people that you're trying to bring onto your team, what is it about your organization that people would want to come and work for you? And I think this is another piece that we've gotten really lazy on coming out of COVID is having a focus on culture and what that looks like. What does that physical space look like? How are team members engaging with each other and with leadership when they're in that new space? And helping organizations become creative with that. A lot of organizations are trying to shrink down on their physical space. And so how do we get creative and make that space that they do keep fostering a thriving environment when people are in the office. Obviously, the technology that supports being cohesive and having connection, having regular team meetings, having personal check-ins with your team. Another thing I feel like leaders have gotten lazy with in the new work as we come out of COVID is, are you having personal check-ins with each of your team members, even when they're working from home? And then just having intentionality around social gatherings, team building activities, and opportunities to network with your team members, because that's huge when it comes to having engaged teams. And engaged teams equal high producing teams. Just wanted to share some articles that have come out recently that kind of surround this the idea of hybrid work. And the first one has to do with Generation Z. This is the generation of workers that one would assume on surface level really like the work from home, like that flexibility, don't want to be around people, don't want to be in the traditional office environment. But the research is coming out that really supports the idea that Gen Z wants that traditional office culture. They value the in-person interactions. They value mentorship. They value learning from people who have the experience above them. And so they like the office parties. They like the happy hour meetings with teams. They like being in office, at least part of the time, working with team members who are more senior to them. In fact, 91% of Gen Z in this article believe that company offsite engagements were important and felt the same about having team building activities during the office environment. So kind of opposite of what the perception might be about Gen Z, but they are the ones that I feel like are really driving this movement to having successful hybrid work and having this new work environment. This is one that I've been using a lot lately. It came from Forbes. It said the 7 truths about hybrid work. And it is all the statements that they make in this article are very true in what I found in my research. The first one is alignment with vision is crucial. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of team members that I work with are feeling that force back into the office. They're not seeing what the vision is. It's not being communicated well. Even if there is a strong reason and a positive aspect to coming back into the office part-time, that's not being clearly communicated. So I work with leaders on a lot of that, having not just clearly communicating your vision, but having alignment with your team. Secondly, proactive community building is vital. Making sure that you have that focus, not just the task-oriented part of your day, but really focus on proactively building your community when you're together, but also finding ways to do that virtually. Trust and competence are non-negotiable. And I work with leaders a lot on getting away from that traditional command control leadership style that is present often in traditional workspaces, increasing transparency, having clear communication, but also clear outcomes that you want from your team, so that they clearly understand and buy into what's happening, especially when they're working from home. And so it's not necessarily about the number of hours that are being worked, but what the outcomes are, what you expect from your team, both on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and going further out, so that's how performance is evaluated on the outcomes, and not just, are you working 8 hours a day? Are you at your desk at 9 and leaving at 5? Because that's one of the benefits of having this hybrid work and the flexibilities that you're giving your team. The transition can be tough for both the leader and the team member as you're transitioning back. Again, especially the further away that we get from people being used to working 100% at home. But I think that it's really necessary in most instances. There are definitely cases where work from home is completely productive and there's no need to go in the office. But the research is showing that hybrid teams are more productive than either of the other two, either fully in person or fully remote. And so I feel like this definitely, when it comes to norms, is going to be the norm in the future of work. And so organizations really need to look at, even if they're fully in person, if there are a lot of teams that have gone fully back to the office, I think that those organizations also need to look at hybrid work and the benefits and what that's going to do for their teams in the long run. Because going back to Gen Z, although they do value the importance of in person, they also seek flexibility, and the hybrid work allows for that flexibility, and they seek purpose. So clearly building that team environment, but also giving that flexibility at the same time is important to those. There's 6 points that they made in their article. Technology enables, but culture defines success. So again, another emphasis on what the culture of your team looks like. And then the last point they made was selection and onboarding processes are critical. I feel like I've focused a lot on leaders being lazy. That's a big theme in my work with teams, and I'm guilty of it too. And so we've gotten away from having clear job descriptions, clear expectations of our team. A lot of organizations I work with have said, well, come back to the office 2 days a week, but they haven't specified which 2 days a week. Again, they want to provide that flexibility. But then my question to them is, you never are guaranteed to have your team together all at once then? So we talked a lot about anchor days, having at least one, if not two anchor days a week where you know your team is all going to be together in person to be able to focus on not just the tasks, but also that team building culture. So we work with just a lot on processes and making sure that teams have clear expectations of what it looks like when they're in the office and what it looks like when they're working from home, and what those outcomes are expected to be in both environments. So how does this look like? When I'm working with clients, I've done larger keynotes and conference workshops to help equip leaders with general ideas and general practices when it comes to hybrid work and being able to engage teams and maximize your productivity. But what I really enjoy is that individual coaching and consulting, going into an organization and helping them to kind of perfect and idealize what that looks like for them. Both can be effective in helping teams to grow, but I feel like getting in and being able to individualize those things for people is where I found the most success. So, like I said, I'm confident that I can help organizations from a small team of 5 to 10 up to a large organization in these different ways, either in large format, in a one-time consultation, or even ongoing coaching and consulting with leadership teams. Each of those methods have their benefits and various levels of success, but that's kind of how I've grown and built out this team and helping kind of idealize the hybrid workspace for people. So that is everything that I have to share. I know this will be shared out too, so I won't spend too much time on that, but I do have my contact information if you want to have some more time to chat about hybrid work. But I wanted to just leave a lot of time for people to ask questions and be able to do some sharing around this idea, because I know that it's a pertinent topic across the country.
Hey, Kyle, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
So, Kyle, I'm in the mortgage business, and we've been kind of hybrid since 2020, beginning of 2020, and a lot of our operations people went home. But part of what we've done during that time is we've shrunk our office space down too, right? So you mentioned, I like that idea of having an anchor day, maybe where people come in, but if they all come in at the same time, I don't have enough room for people anymore, right? So
Yeah.
how have other companies adapted to just, if they're shrinking office space down, which is great, right? It saves us money. When you so I could see how you might need to alternate those days, but I also like the idea of bringing people together. So hopefully that is clear.
Yeah, and that's where if you have a large sales team, maybe once a quarter or twice a year, a large offsite where you're gonna pay probably to rent an event space and do a larger whole team thing may be important. But what I've seen a lot is within a large sales organization, there are typically teams where you have different, maybe 4 or 5 different sales managers.
Right.
And so, one sales manager's days are Mondays and Wednesdays, the others are Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then maybe, if to be equitable amongst the teams, those rotate, throughout every quarter, something like that. So teams are getting different days in the office. But that's typically what I've seen when you have constrained space. but also like, I mean, I have the benefit of knowing and seeing your space, but a lot of times it's the physical space. How do you redesign that and restructure that so you can still be effective, but have more people in the space by rethinking and redesigning the physical space? So, yeah, lots of fun
Cool.
ideas, but again, that's where it just comes down to individually. What does that team look like? What's the composition of your organization? Are you all sales? Do you have some support people? And what are the needs of those different teams too?
I have a quick question. I'm Jennifer from the Honolulu Executives Association, and we have
And Stevenson.
hello?
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I have a team and they work out of the Philippines. So what I try to have them do is to get together themselves when they're able to, but they're a little spread out, so they can do that maybe once a month. And then we have weekly meetings, and I have started to do like a check-in. We'll start before the whole team comes in and we start talking business. We have like a 15 minutes of just chit chat, catching up. How's everybody doing? But in my situation, do you have any suggestions or recommendations for really connecting with those that you really don't? I mean, I only get to see them once a year in person.
Yeah, for sure. And there are definitely, I can share them with you, Jennifer, too, if you shoot me an email. There are definitely a lot of really effective ways to still build team culture virtually, because obviously it's, the hybrid environment isn't possible in every situation, right? When you have global teams, like you said, you may all get together once a year, and those become ever more important. But there are definitely creative ways to inspire culture, even virtually, or even for you to have, create space for that for them um, when they get together in person once a month and what that looks like. But yeah, I think, the simple thing that you're doing in the beginning, I think that's important too. Both as a team and individually, like, are you checking in on your team members on a personal level too, not just like on work related stuff, but I think what you're doing is a good start. But yeah, definitely send me an email, and I have some great ideas for doing that.
Thank you so much.
For virtual teams.
Yeah, Kyle, I'd love to hear that too. That's exactly how the IEA is. I mean, all of our business and the board business is done over Zoom, and once a year we get together in person at the conference, maybe twice a year if board members go to the mid-year meeting. So we do everything on Zoom. So that'd be great to have.
Yeah, and Lisa, I think I talked to Lisa Woodstock about this too when we were chatting about this session. But I would be happy even to come in and be on one of those sessions with your different executives across the country too, and just help facilitate an activity like that too. Be more than happy.
That's great.
Question. I'm Kim Frost, and I have a recruiting firm. And I am seeing the trend of clients asking their employees to come back to the office. But do you work with your clients on how to overcome objections of coming in? My favorite is, well, I don't have childcare, or I have to pick up my kids. And, before COVID, we would never even hear that as an excuse. But I'm hearing sometimes they're more personal excuses than professional. And, there has to be that division. So do you work with your clients on how to overcome those types of pushback?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's one of the things. The thing is, this work is so multifaceted, but one of it is, working with leaders on how do you message the return to office, which having objections is definitely very normal. I will say there still has to be clear expectations and a clear procedure put into place when it comes to that expectation of being in the office. And I do see a benefit in the modern work environment of allowing some of those flexibilities around, I need to take my kid to the doctor, or I need to go pick up my kid from school. Now, it probably shouldn't be an everyday thing. Like, if you don't have someone to pick up your kid every day, then that's probably that's a problem outside of work. But if it's hey, I need to go and take my kid to the doctor, or my kid's doing a school performance or whatever. One of the ideas that I've worked on with people, and again, it has to be the right organization, you have to have the right culture, is the unlimited time off, where it's not, there's a lot there, and HR professionals are involved and things like that in creating a great plan, but it works well with a lot of teams. And it's an added benefit that doesn't cost the organization if it's executed well. I do it with my own team. I tell them, if I trust you enough to bring you onto my team, then I trust you to manage your schedule. Now, we happen to be a sales organization where if they're not producing, they're not making money. So it's going to become very apparent if they're abusing that policy. And we're going to have a conversation about other things. And, are you taking too much time? But that can be a benefit. And so there's definitely a balance. And I work with teams on that. But that is a huge objection that we're seeing, is like the people have gotten used to not paying for childcare, or, being able to go and get their kid every day from school at 3:00. Yeah. And so for some teams, we really have, I've worked with a large insurance team, that they were probably 85-90% comprised of working parents who had kids in that school age. They just redesigned their whole workday schedule around that, so that people didn't have to worry about picking their kids up or driving. That was just their in-office time was designed around the school schedule. Right. And again, and not every organization can be able to do that, but there's the things where there's not a cookie cutter approach, and that is something that I've done, is help leaders navigate what that looks like for them.
Yeah, I don't know if you have any articles to point to, because I do have articles of, how you're more productive in office. Say 90% of my clients are flexible, but I agree with you, when it's not a daily basis. And sometimes I think that we've over-indexed the other way, where we have taken advantage of our company's flexibility. And again, not having childcare, hopefully it's a temporary issue, but when you just don't get childcare and you're expected to work, it's that messaging to people. I think that I'm still baffled that professionals don't see that.
Right. Yeah. In my opinion, the expectation should not be that my job allows me not to have childcare. But yeah, there are great ways to communicate that. And I do think I have a couple of articles that would be helpful. So again, shoot me an email so I remember, and I'll find those and send them back to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, does anyone else have more questions for Kyle? I put his email in the chat, so feel free to reach out to him directly if something strikes you after the fact. Also, this webinar is recorded and will be posted to the IEA YouTube page, so feel free to pop over there and share it with someone, maybe a boss or a employee or a friend, coworker, fellow business owner, someone that needs to hear this. Feel free to share that with them.
So,
yes, please reach out. I'm happy to answer questions. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, my name is Colleen, and I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And we're having the opposite issue. We are almost fully working from the office, but it's new staff that we're trying to hire who want the hybrid. And we're a law firm, so it's nice to have bodies in the seats and stuff, but we're sort of torn between, some of them wanting hybrid, some of them not, and we lose candidates because a lot of the times we can't offer it. So I'm not sure how much of that you're dealing with either, because most of this is, hybrid coming into work, and ours is sort of opposite.
Yeah, most definitely. And I briefly mentioned it, but there are a lot of organizations who went straight back. There are a lot of large organizations who've done that, that are definitely seeing the repercussions of it. They aren't holding on to they're not retaining their team members as much as they would like to. And so again, I'm definitely happy to have a more in-depth conversation with you to kind of parse that out for yourself. I guess I would just, ask you to think: are there reasons why that couldn't be a possibility for you, especially if you're going to get higher quality attorneys in your firm, and be able to keep them because of that flexibility. I definitely believe that there's a strong reason to have people in the office. But is there an opportunity to allow some flexibility, even if it's just one day a week, and what that might look like for your team? So again, happy to have more conversation. But I have worked with teams who went full swing just right out of COVID as quick as they can back into the office, and we are seeing the data show that those organizations don't have as high of a retention on their teams as organizations who are working in the hybrid space or even fully remote.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any more questions for Kyle?
Well, thank
All
you guys.
right.
I
Well,
would just say again, yes, please reach out. Please ask questions. I'm happy to have one-on-one conversations with you, or send articles if you have a specific topic you want me to look for that on, if I have those available. I'm happy to come and do a virtual presentation to your associations too, to share this with the rest of your members. It's definitely the way that I see the organizations across industries moving to, in general, because of the benefits that people see. So happy to do that for you.
awesome. Thanks so much, Kyle. Appreciate having you. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time out today to join us. And we hope to see you at the one next month.
Thank you,
Good
Kyle.
afternoon, everybody.
Thank you, buddy.
Of course.
Thank you, Kyle. Everybody
Take care,
have a good
guys.
day.